Okay, right. Webcam. Hello! Hi, and welcome. My name is Matt, and this is the first video I think I've ever recorded face-to-face with YouTube in some capacity. And I basically set up a brand new YouTube channel, and despite having tried to do this little beginning bit a few times, I'm a bit wary of being on camera, streaming, all that type of stuff, but I've set up this new YouTube channel, and today I was going to go live on YouTube for like a live stream type thing. Go to the live stream page, and you can't even start doing it until 24 hours after you start making videos or start activating the account. So I believe I've activated the account and kind of set it up, and hopefully when I can live stream I will live stream. But in the meanwhile I've kind of basically doing a recording, a test run. The problem with a test run is that I can easily go into my settings, which I'll pull over and kind of show you the behind the scenes, which is kind of what I'm going to do in this video. You can see this kind of trail of windows. I've been messing around with this piece of software called OBS, which allows you to basically kind of set different screens. So you can add and remove cameras. You can go to the kind of the main ident, which you won't see now because the screen will be covered up. So I've been kind of playing around with this, and just kind of at the moment I'm doing a recording, so this isn't actually live. So it's kind of a nice test before I kind of get going. I'm a bit worried that my laptop sounds like it's about to take off, because I'm just easily hitting 10% CPU before I even like do anything. I don't. Xcode is open, so I do have pop that open. One of the projects we'll be looking at kind of hopefully later, kind of part of kind of the live stream process I'll be talking through. But to begin with, this stream is basically, don't expect too much. This is me just setting up my tools and having a little bit of a play. It's gonna be very chilled. There's literally, there won't be very much code. I might talk a tiny bit about one of the projects which I've got kind of in mind. One of the windows I've got up there is kind of ready to show you one of the projects I want to be working on when I do live stream. But at the moment, I'm very wary. I've just had the door behind me go. It's kind of mildly embarrassing talking to a camera, and I definitely need some practice at this. Even looking into the camera, I'm struggling slightly. But let's put in some hours and see kind of how it goes. I think it might be easier knowing there's other people watching this, because I can kind of talk to them, whereas at the moment I'm just recording a video and just talking kind of to the ether. Whereas if I know that at least someone's watching somewhere, then I can kind of imagine them somewhere in the world watching me, and I think that'll make it easier. Right, so I'll put this away. So I've been kind of playing around. I've got some kind of various kind of more complicated setups, including, let me pull this slightly over there so you can see. So I've got, this is kind of so meta. I've got a webcam. I've got a little setup with a tool which I really can recommend. I'll put this away because then I can show you the other side of this tool. A tool called DexSet, which I'll be using as a little kind of, I thought this was kind of a neat idea. But the way it works, I'm putting these across from my second screen. It basically allows you to very easily kind of set up kind of, what they called, it's slides, but based on Markdown. So I've got my Markdown browser here, so it means I can very easily kind of put together kind of really quick kind of slides or points. I can't think of anything. So the goal today is to set up the stream. And I've used, actually, I can point to one of the things I've used this for in the past. I used this for one of my university talks or university projects. I can even at some point even go through some of the stuff I worked on in university projects. I haven't really decided on kind of where these sets of videos will go, but I've got kind of, I think the idea will be is I'll just kind of start with some of my personal projects, and then from there, based on what kind of people find interesting, I'll then kind of do a poll or work out a way to kind of gauge people's interest in various things. I've had a few ideas for some projects which I've got kind of I've already started working on, and some apps which I've always wanted to exist, kind of build some kind of products for myself. I also really like the idea of doing some open source. One thing which I've been trying to do for the last, I remember as far back as maybe 2016, I've always wanted to contribute to open source Swift, and I've dug in multiple times. I've tried building the tool chain. I've even spoken to quite some of the people who work on the open source frameworks. I've even assigned and received bug requests, but I've never committed, and I've never managed to actually be useful to the open source community in that sense. I've put some projects on GitHub, and I can show you one of the ones we'll talk about in a second. Let me put these away. But yeah, that's one of the things I'm thinking maybe I'll do as part of this channel, is kind of maybe some open source stuff. Let me switch to this camera. Cool. Or even webcam, because I'm just talking. So open source Swift is possibly an option. I actually wrote down a few ideas of other stuff which I'm kind of at least intrigued by, and I'll see what else is possible. I also have 2020. I've decided that I quite like to learn Haskell, so that might make its way into some of the streams. Building a ray tracer is another one of those projects which I just absolutely love. There's even a really good website which I can. One of my main things is I just really want to basically provide value to people in terms of all the links and things I find. I think it's called BuildX. DJing tips. Build your own X. This one. And I was looking through this before, but it's starred. It's very well recommended. And just this GitHub is kind of, to me, is the dream. For me, learning is all to do with just building your own things and trying stuff out and seeing how far you can get, kind of hacking stuff together. Some of my inspiration for this kind of stream and channel will be the idea of kind of just thinking of an idea and going, right, let's run with it, let's see what we can do. For me, it's quite scary because I'm like, oh no, someone can now, for the whole process of building something, watch over my shoulder, which is quite daunting in terms of being willing to accept that I make mistakes, and you being able to see the mistakes I make, or stupid code choices and stuff like that. But hopefully with when I am live and have a chat, that'll be much easier. But yeah, this resource is insane, and I absolutely love it. Build your own X, and I can probably collect links and work out a way to kind of collate the things I talk about in these videos. It's got a ton of categories and all sorts of things which you can build in different languages. So in terms of renderers, augmented reality, I think there's you can make your own blockchain somewhere. Yeah, I've definitely got an interest in languages in terms of sometime. I have too many kind of pet projects on the go at once, but very interested in how compilers work. So that could also make an appearance. And then there's obviously the more obvious stuff. So in terms of my expertise, which I should have probably started with, is that I'm an iOS developer. My main kind of I was going to main webcam. There we go. Smooth. So my main profession, or the main thing I do most of the time, is I build iOS apps with a specialty in ARKit and CoreML, which are two frameworks. So ARKit is an augmented reality framework, and CoreML is a machine learning on-device tool. So it allows you to build. Well, it doesn't allow you to build the models and machine learning related stuff. It's more kind of a way of kind of running it on a device, and specifically an iOS device. So I'm hoping to do quite a few videos around those ideas. It's not just iOS actually. CoreML is across Apple platforms. But yeah, so that's kind of the main. So that's me mainly. Yeah, I've mostly done. I think I've been doing iOS maybe 4 years, at least. I built kind of. For me, it was kind of a case that I was actually originally went to university to study physics, and I can talk about this a bit more another time possibly. But I basically switched degree from physics, and I switched over to computer science. And in the year in between, I built kind of my first iOS app. I'd been kind of dabbling beforehand. I'd been learning originally Objective-C and then Swift when it came out, which is another language. which is the kind of the main language I use at the moment. Yeah, and during that transition, I basically decided, like, right, if I really do let myself switch degree, then I've got to prove to myself that I can build an app. And that summer, in about 3 months, kind of took myself from being just like kind of very focused on kind of the middle kind of tutorial path, kind of going through tutorials, following the tutorials, building an app through that, to then completely just building my own thing. Obviously you follow tutorials to a point, but as soon as you try and build your own project, and this is what actually ties into this website and this GitHub repo, is that, yeah, as soon as you then go and build your own thing, the safety rails, or kind of, yeah, it's like bowling without safety rails, the point at which you then start trying to build your own stuff, you suddenly hit so many more problems, because it's like, oh, that safe area of like, oh, what happens when you do this? You suddenly get out into kind of the real world in some sense. So for me, learning is very, very full. It's all about these challenges and kind of building your own things. So I think a lot of my channel will be focused on that. And I just, yeah, there's too many of these projects which I'm just like, I would love to build a game. I'd love to write a neural network from scratch, or a text editor, or maybe a voxel engine. There's too many options, so I need to keep myself focused. I was talking about something else before, and I've already drifted way off. Yeah, so I do iOS. That's the main thing. In the past, I've also, after I finished university, I also was a research assistant for a summer's worth of work, and then I've also recently, as in September last year, became a digital nomad and started traveling and working. So I did freelance work while traveling, and I was actually out in Spain 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then suddenly out of nowhere, well, not out of nowhere, I'd actually been following the coronavirus way before. Oh, I've said the CV word. I need to not say that, I think, because YouTube is downvoting or demonetizing and kind of lowering in the stats CV related content. So doesn't matter. So I've been following coronavirus for a while, but it actually kind of caught up properly with Europe, I guess. 2 or 3, or maybe 3 weeks ago, I think, I basically made the decision from Spain to first move to Portugal before the borders shut, and then from Portugal back home to London, which is where I was born. So for the time being, I'm here, and I've noticed a lot. I've basically kind of used the excuse of traveling not to make my own YouTube channel. Well, I've used a lot of excuses in the past not to make my own YouTube channel. But now is the time. I'm at home, and I have nearly finished some of the other things I'm working on. So I think this is a good kind of little project that I can kind of pick up, and I think now is a good time to do it, in terms of the fact that a lot of people are at home, and it's basically trying to just create an environment to help provide value to people. That's really all I'm trying to aim to do, is provide hopefully some useful content, or just a place for people to kind of watch as they do other things, or just to hang out. That's kind of cool. I like that idea. But yeah, so I'll definitely have a way of somehow of recommending or picking what you would like me to be working on. So we'll see. Wow, I've been going for 14 minutes. That's this is mildly terrifying. Right, so let's quickly go through the things I was talking about before. So, got a new channel. Somehow, since yesterday when I opened the channel, I have gained 3 subscribers, which is wonderful. Thank you very much for subscribing if you have. I can't live stream, that was the other update. As of the moment, what would be really funny is now if it was now to load and be like, no, okay, fine. And I also put out a tweet just to kind of say, just to try and begin to gauge kind of what other streams other people watch, because I really want to kind of, basically I need some exemplary people to kind of follow and kind of see how they live code and live stream, and kind of use that as kind of a starting place. I definitely think that starting out by kind of doing what someone else does is a good way to start, and then you can branch off and be creative and do your own kind of type thing. So I definitely, yeah, don't expect this to be an original kind of style stream. I'm going to basically be very, very similar to other... Oh, I made a typo. Oh dear, okay. Or a space missing. Oops. Anyway, let's move on. So the project which I'm kind of firstly probably going to be focused on, just because it's kind of a topical and relatively fun thing to do, is this little project I put back kind of the day I think I got home. I did it over the... This was all done over the course of like 2 or 3 days. Yeah, I think... Okay, maybe not quite, but I think I had it working and then slowly committed some of the other bits back to it. I think that, yeah, it was over kind of the 18th to the 20th of March, which is now a really long time ago. Or it feels like a long time ago when you're stuck at home quarantining. Anyway, let me explain what this project is. One of the first things which I need to probably get on with, if my internet catches up. Wow. Oh dear. This could be a problem. Oh dear. Everything stopped. Yes. Okay, let's just go for it and we'll see if it appears back, and I think the music's decided it's going to stop as well, so I'm going to pause that for the time being. And I might try restarting it in a second. So this project is a small Mac app which I've written, which basically detects if you touch your face. This is not... I don't know if this is a good example, but I've got this news report, and it's a general consensus of, I believe, it's actually a good point, World Health Organization, WHO. Be interesting to see if the WHO face touching, if the World Health Organization recommend or don't are asking people to avoid touching their face, because that probably would be the main thing I should have checked first. But basically I built this small Mac app. It's very simple, which uses machine learning and Core ML, which I mentioned before, to basically detect if you're touching your face. And the idea being that you could basically run it on your MacBook or possibly phone. I haven't decided if I'll go... it's very simple once I've kind of got most of the stuff set up to be able to port it and have it run on a mobile phone. Let's get that music. There we go. Yeah. So, yes, basically it's a Mac app which detects if you're touching your face. And I thought, like, it's, for me, that's like kind of the perfect point in terms of if you've ever heard of something called Flow. I definitely experienced this while writing the beginning of this project. Oh dear, the Wi-Fi. Oh, there we go. Images. So Flow is basically a state which you can get into. It's kind of... I need a good definition of it. Positive psychology. Let's go to the Wikipedia page. It's basically when you kind of get in the zone, if you imagine. And the way you do it is basically by picking a project which is kind of the right level of challenge for you, and I can't remember the 2 axes. This is not going to be very good if I can't even see what they are. I'll start looking it up on my phone while I wait for my internet to work. This could be a problem if I try and stream stuff. Flow state. Yeah, it's one of these, kind of similar to one of these. So it's the mix of matching your challenge to your skill. So it's trying to basically put your project or whatever you're working on in this kind of middle channel, which is super important in terms of if either side you'll have problems. So if it's not challenging enough, you'll get bored very, very quickly. If it's too challenging, you'll get extremely anxious and you won't want to do it. So it's this balance of kind of trying to pick something in this channel of matching your skill. And like, even when I was talking before about kind of building your first app, that's only something you can really do when you reach a certain point of skill. So for me, building my first app, I spent, I think, about a year before, and I had been programming a bit before, but kind of really getting used to using Swift and Objective-C first, and then it switched over to Swift before I then took on building my first app. And I can talk more about all of these things because I think there'll be specific bits, and I have little spiels of things I think about in terms of, especially around app development, and the idea that you really need to first, well, if you're beginning out, you need to start very, very first with learning to program. That's its own thing. You learn the concepts first, you learn how to program. Then for iOS, you would need to learn specifically the language. So you would learn Swift, which is currently the most widely used and approved of in terms of Apple pushes Swift a lot harder than Objective-C, which is the kind of the legacy and older language. And then you need to learn the other part of it, which is the actual application development and iOS and all of the quirks of actually building an application. Parts of the language are things like arrays or structs and how you organize your data, or the algorithms and the way you write functions, and how protocols kind of work and all that type of stuff. And then on the other side of it, you've got kind of the iOS side, which is like, oh, I want to put a table view here. I want to have a list of things. So yeah, anyway, so the key thing is we've got to nail the kind of the right point. And I'll just quickly have a little read of what flow is. Positive psychology, flow, also known as being in the zone. So I was kind of right on that. Is a mental state in which a person performs an activity in a fully immersed in. Oh, I can't read either. An activity is fully immersed in a being of energized focus, full involvement and enjoyment in the process of the activity. I'd highly recommend reading into it. I've been doing a course recently called it's called Into the Meaning Crisis, and I can talk about that, and don't want to get into that right now, but there's a course and it talks about psychology and a ton of other things, and they mention flow and the importance of being in a flow state. So back to the project. So this is the project which I was talking about. It's called Stop Touching Your Face. And I think I did some tweets. So this is kind of oh, I think my music stopped again. It's just dear me. So I kind of just tweeted, and I did find out actually that other versions of this do exist. So don't at me. I don't want to hear about it. I know they exist. I saw that they existed. I did not know about those ideas when I tweeted this. One of my friends, I think Bobby, tweeted me saying, hey, this exists. Oh no, maybe it wasn't Bobby. I'll have to see. It's somewhere in the thread, but I believe it does exist. I found out very quickly that it did exist. And for me, it was more a case of that a lot of the other examples were pretty good, and they trained their own neural networks and they'd done some clever stuff. But it was more the worry that they were sitting in Chrome or were running mostly from a web browser, which in theory they probably aren't doing anything fishy in terms of using your face or monitoring you. But it's better. I prefer to just roll my own basically, and also it fit in terms of flow for being kind of a good spot on that. So yeah, I kind of initially just thought the idea of just like, okay, we're being told a lot to not touch our face because of I was looking up if the World Health Organization actually said anything about it. The government plan to stop you touching your face. Basically, at least for the coronavirus, which I've said now for the second time, I might have to beep it out or something. That basically it's spread mostly by you touching things and then you touching your face, or droplets or stuff like that. And I'm by no means an expert, so this is not advice in any sense there. But this is more just a fun idea, and it fit well with kind of me playing and building stuff. And with my experience in CoreML, I was like, this could be a good challenge to try. So, where did we get to? Yeah, especially when you're like working from home. You could probably go back in this recording and watch how many times I've like touched my face since then. I should be using it, especially when watching Netflix. I've recently been watching Tiger King. Yeah, you get so focused on what you're watching that you then get distracted by it's subconscious, right? And this would be more of a tool to kind of train people to stop doing that. not really to be something ideally you wouldn't run all the time. And as I said, regardless if anyone uses it, for me it's a good experience. So I kind of put up the repo, and within, I think, 2 days, I think, I had basically a working example. I'll run it and show you properly in a second. And I'm just going to kind of talk through kind of how it's built. So it's built and trained on top of MobileNet 2, using transfer learning with PyTorch to basically output a core ML model, a segmentation model. And what that means is you take an input image from the webcam, and then I'm not quite sure exactly how to explain it, but yeah, using something called a unit architecture, you basically kind of maps across, and it's trained to, but you basically provide it, at least for general machine learning, you're providing a data set, so you're training it, so you're saying, when you see this, give me this output. And in this case, you basically provide an input of, I basically use this data set. So there's a data set here called hand segmentation, and I used a very specific subset of it, which is called hands over face. I think I can probably pull that up. Okay, I'll have a look for that in a second. But yeah, they actually have some examples of various ones. Hands over face, here we go. This is what I wanted. So the key thing is it would show you hands over face, and then the other part of the dataset is that it would provide a mask. So basically what a mask is, it's basically kind of showing you, it's mapping for each pixel in the original image, it maps it to a label in the output image. And the segmentation, which means kind of an outline or kind of a shaded shape, you basically have the shapes of the hands coloured in the images. So in my output example here, you're seeing my hand in the original image, and then the detector will output kind of a masked image of specifically the hand, which then gives you enough information to kind of know where the hand is in that square crop of the image, and then you can then use that to basically kind of work out a load of stuff. Kind of trying to keep this quite high level, but I've already gone a bit too deep, I think. Let's see. So yeah, so a lot of what I was doing here and using these tools it's a lot of work based off what other people have done. So I need to say that up front, as this is just me kind of, very much in hacking stuff together. So as in pulling in existing data sets, retraining existing segmentation models. So this was the segmentation model I used. So this is trained using, it's basically a MobileNet v2 and unit architecture. And in this example, they have it set up for hair segmentation, and you can run this on a mobile. They even have the tools to export this as a core ML model, which is really cool. I remember playing around with a lot of this stuff when I was doing my dissertation, which was a lot to do with like augmented reality and machine learning combined at the same time. And let's see, let me get it up, I guess. That's probably do I want to go into this now? So this is the project. I've got a very basic version working. As you can see, it is open source as well, so it's under an MIT license. The idea being that I want it to be free and freely available in terms of people being able to use it or contribute to it if they really wanted to. At the moment, I don't have a README, so I think one of the first things I'll be working on, probably starting tomorrow when I do start streaming properly, will be to start filling out a README, adding a preference panel. I'm not actually tracking them in issues at the moment. At the moment, I think the only issue I have is here, which tells me that there's no way for people to build or use it, and it needs full documentation. So there is a way in GitHub to have releases available, so I need to work out a way to do that. But I'll show you the project. I'll get it open, and when I run it, you'll notice that my webcam will go kind of funny. So I'll just take it off now, just to stop that from happening. So let's see how I've structured this. I think I've got a buzzer noise as well, but as of the moment, it's mostly in one class. Oh no, it's all in one class. It's all in one class. I think separated. Have I separated them by extension? Yeah, they're in extension. So it's 500 lines of code. So it's not insane. A lot of this started off actually as a template from. It's one of the Vision templates from Apple. Next, so let's see. Yeah, let's just give it a go. Let's see what happens if I run it. One thing, I don't know if it'll be picked up on the audio in the recording software. But I guess we'll see. Oh, it's appeared over here. Oh, I need to pull it over. So there we go. That's me. If you notice, the resolution is extremely fuzzy compared to the webcam. You'll notice that my webcam, as I said, has now cropped itself because it's something to do with AV Foundation, which is the underlying software which does the video related stuff on macOS. So the way I've kind of set it up is that's me, and as I put up my hand, you should see that I'm not sure. What I want to check is if that noise is coming through. At the moment, it's just playing the default kind of you've done something wrong or you press the button kind of annoying noise, which Apple, it's kind of the built-in Apple noise. The way it works, so basically I'll try and walk through what's happening right here. Up here, I have a little indicator which goes red when it detects movement. So across each frame it's capturing from the video feed. It's checking for enough difference and similarities between the images that when it goes above a certain threshold, it will then trigger and start running the more heavier operation, which is the neural network. So if I put my hand up again, you can there see that's my hand, and you can see down here I have a little preview. At the moment, it literally just checks if the hand is in the cropped frame around my face. At one point, I did have, I might even be able to actually find it. I did have a cropping. I did have a actual face detection system which drew a bounding box around my face. I realised I don't really need it because as soon as you have if you put a hand anywhere near kind of even here, you want to be able to stop it before then. I guess there's one problem I have realised is that as soon as you go for a drink of tea, the dataset is trained on the idea that the dataset should only show segmentation when it sees, I think, a hand over the face, but no, I think it's hands near faces is the dataset which has been trained on, which I showed before. So it works, it's the key thing. One of the problems I've been having, and I'm a bit mildly concerned about, is the fact that it uses more CPU than I would want it to, even though, I don't know, I guess I'm complaining maybe too much. Basically, when you're idle, so let's say I'm just working, and let's say I'm like this, and just maybe speaking a tiny bit, but not much is happening, you'll notice that it's red, it's only processing the frames, and there is a bit of a lag now, but I think that's because I'm doing a lot with my computer. I'm on 12% CPU just from OBS recording, but you'll see it's around 10%, and then as soon as I move, it suddenly spikes and it can go up to as high as 70 or 80. Not always as much. I can show exactly how that works in like proper detail, but I think for the moment this is kind of just showing you one of the projects I've been working on and kind of how I've been finding it. I have some stash code which has a full set of preferences. At the moment there is no preferences section up here, and that'll probably be the next thing I work on. I've just kind of being able to at least fine tune some of the parameters I've added. So yeah, I think that might be enough for the first stream. I don't really know. I'm not sure if I should do more or if I should wait for when I have viewers. I'm really worried I've just kind of waffled for a lot of this. But I guess I'll never learn if I don't try, and I think it's in things you don't like or things that you find hard which you actually do grow the most from. So let me switch. Yeah, let's stop that from running. let's think. How much more do I want to show before to stop? Let's see if the webcam is... so the webcam is stuck. So if I open QuickTime, it will trigger it to... Or if I do a movie recording, that should, yeah, force it back. Nice. So let me try and think of what I can talk about in terms of still kind of trying to keep relatively high level. So in the repo, at least, let's just quickly go through what's in the repo. I think that's my side of it. Let's go into the actual repo. Yes, this is what's available. So I have a load of resources and tooling around kind of how you build and get the model to work. One of the parts of the model actually, which is kind of probably most interesting, is in this file, which is basically a Swift playground. I don't think I've explained what a Swift playground is yet, but a Swift playground is basically kind of it's a playground for playing with Swift. It allows you to basically kind of test out ideas. So let me open a new one and I can just give you a quick explanation. I'm sure the people watching this will probably, especially if you're interested in iOS stuff, I'll just check this on my desktop. A lazy way. It basically allows you to very easily kind of write out when it eventually runs. It does take a bit of time. It sometimes even needs a password prompt to get going. But yeah, it basically allows you to try out Swift code. For me, if I dare, I don't think I want to open up the cavern, which is my playgrounds folder. Yeah, this is going to be horrific. So look away now if you're scared of organisation. I just have. That's only one of the folders. I have some deeper folders in there as well. For me, I find that whenever I'm writing code, I always prototype. For me, prototyping is like kind of the first thing I do. I very rarely go straight into a project and kind of work on stuff. It's all about how much of it can I test in small bite-sized chunks, work out how it works, see if there's any restrictions on that, and then begin to think about how you would integrate it into the system. For me, that's worked quite well in terms of a lot of the work I've done has been very prototype orientated in terms of testing ideas, seeing what's possible. So for me, Swift Playgrounds is brilliant. It's a shame it's not running. Am I missing something? It says it's running. Well, when it decides to run, I might be able to show you how it works. But this file, resize data, the original data set, which I guess I'll have somewhere probably in that folder. Hand over face is not there. Do I have a copy of it? Hand over face. This will probably be a version of it. I think some of these might be mine. I might have added or edited. There we go. Put the password in, and then we should actually see the first one running if it decides. As long as we only got one running, that'll be good. Okay. Anyway, so this is the data. So you have the original images. So we have some massive images of people's faces and hands. And there's a few people you'll recognise in here. I'm using just this data set, so I'm completely running off the way. Oh dear. Yeah, kind of the way this works. And this is yeah. So it's completely based off this existing data set. I haven't augmented it or added anything or messed around with it too much. This has very much been a get this going, get it set up, and basically see if it works first before going back and trying to improve it. And that might be an even further step you could take it. So it provides resized images, which I thought were pretty nasty in terms of the way I saw some of them. Yeah, like this one, number 22. We'll go and look at the masks for that in a second. But it's squishing and messing around with these images. So when I originally saw this, I was like, how are you gonna? I guess it depends on how you input your images. But for me, this was just like an instant kind of. I used them because they were easy to use at the beginning, because I wanted to get them as close as I could to 224 by 224, which is the input of my network. And there's a whole reason why I used exactly 224 A lot of it had to do with pre-trained weights for mobile net, but we can talk about that later. And you have the mask, so if we go back and find 22, that's a very, very stretched hand, and some of these look so peculiar because they're so kind of stretched and messed around. So I kind of started out and was very happy with just kind of trying to train my network using them. And pretty soon after that, I first wanted to just resize and crop them. I know there's easier ways to crop them. I'm sure there'll be someone in the chat or someone in the comments being like, you should use ImageMagick. And I agree, I do actually later use, I think I use ImageMagick to turn them into PPM files, which is what one of the inputs to the network. Oh, yeah, I think convert is from ImageMagick, but that's, yeah, anyway. For me, it was kind of a case of, I might as well just use Swift because that's what I'm used to. So I'll run this and I can kind of show you what. First, let me just quickly explain the gist of a playground. I'm hopping around a lot, so I think when I do have live viewers, I'll definitely need some input on if I'm moving too fast or kind of, yeah, we'll work out how that works later. But this is a playground. You can basically write any type of code you want to write. The cool thing is that you basically get provided an output on the right hand side. So you have your code running here, and you hit the run button and it automatically runs. Or you can fiddle around with kind of automatically running or whatever you want down there. So you can put in just simple things like oh no, it's not my day. Things crashing. So Xcode just crashed. Should also, whenever I mention tooling, I should always try and mention which version I'm on, or at least show it. Oh, have we lost audio? Oh, that's the end of the track, that's why. So, let's see if we can run this again without it. Okay, that's a new one. I don't think I'm writing an error. I think that is a reasonable thing to write. I would expect that to work normally. I might be wrong. Let me close that just in case that's causing problems. Let me just put that as a parameter just in case, and then we'll just display the result afterwards. No, Xcode is not happy with me. We will move on because nothing logically makes sense why that would be the case. But this is a monster script. This is again, so about 250 lines of code. What it does, it basically processes images. So the majority of this script, I think if I fold that like so, it's pretty much all this function called process image, which basically means you're taking an image and you're going and resizing the source. So you're taking that very first original image and resizing it to, firstly, a crop in the right position, and we'll talk about how I do that in a sec. And then you're then resizing it down to 244 by 244. So it's square crop and 244 by 244. I started doing that, and then I also started doing that to the resized images. So originally this whole dataset was running on resized images, and it was an absolute mess because obviously those, it's fine to crop them and move them into the right positions and do the same thing across both images because they're not, well, they turned out not to be the same size and a load of other problems. But in the end, I basically decided that along with that data set, so if I go bring it back up, which is, I think, a level up in my folder, and one of the things which you did get, so that all these masks like this are actually built from XML annotations, which look, at least this is not a nice way to view it, but there's annotations in XML which allow you to basically give you points on the image of kind of how you draw those polygons. So in the end, I decided it'd be much easier. I can show you my output actually, because I think, I guess no, I'll run the code and that'll generate the output. So let's just start running this. My computer might go slow depending on how much CPU it's gonna need to do this. So let me walk you through. One of the things which was really important was that I cropped the face in the correct space. A lot of the time you can lazily just kind of crop the face and just kind of do a square crop in the middle. But as you notice in that data set, oh, thanks, it's 10 minutes later. We go to the original data set again. Level up. Original images. If I was just to square crop the center, all of the images are in lots of different sizes, but you'll notice not all of them. So I find a good example. Yeah, this one, for example, if you were to square crop that, the face would be way off center. And I really wanted to make sure that the face was the key part, mainly because when you look at the webcam, so if you look at me in the webcam currently down here somewhere, wherever I am, I have to look over there to see myself. I'm pretty much always deadpan, centering the screen, and hopefully sitting up relatively straight and looking straight at the computer. Obviously, not all of these are straight on, but they're at least kind of facing the person, so you get some idea of kind of what they look like. So one of the things was, yeah, I really want to basically square crop around them, and especially if they're off center, I want it to square crop to the side, or basically we'll move the crop based on their face. So in this example, I'm using vision to basically do a face detection. I think if I preview here, this will just as it processes each photo, it will draw a bounding box around where it detects a face. If it doesn't detect a face, there's other problems, and it's actually printing out down here where that bounding box sits. I believe these are normalized coordinates, so meaning that this is a multiple of, it's 40% or 0.4 times the original size of the image. So that's kind of the position is normalized. I also have a quick check to see if it's landscape or portrait. There's Cara Delevingne. And then the first thing to do is basically to, I think, crop based on that. So I do a crop, and the cropped image is called cropped. Don't think I've got a preview for that. I might be able to see. Yeah, so here's, can I open that? Yeah, so here's an output of what the cropped images look like. Should be changing. So yes, you can see there what the input is and what the output is. So that's basically cropped based on the face. So the idea of the face being at the center of the image, and cropping based on kind of whichever the predominant height. I think there's a few problems with landscape portrait photos being a bit thin sometimes, but at the moment this is the least of my worries. I then do a resize, so you can see that this now will be, that one there called resize, will be a resized version of that. If it doesn't detect a face, and you'll notice in some of them, the vision system does not detect a face, meaning the problem with that is that basically if it doesn't see a face, it just does a center crop, which is kind of the default. So that's why there's a few which just kind of will not look perfectly right. So I then output that. Then it gets to passing the annotations, and that's again another whole something new which I've never kind of done. And to be honest, I think this could be a bit sloppy, so don't use this as the perfect way to do it. I definitely do your own research, but basically what I did is I used the XML parser class and delegate. So you basically make a parser, and then I believe you set the delegate, and these are a load of, I've kind of nested these in here. You set the delegate to be the annotation delegate, and then call parse on it. So what this does, it basically looks through, it's got a load of kind of parameters nested in it. It adopts the delegate here, and it calls these are all functions related to that. The weird thing which I found so odd about this is that in one function it tells you an element is about to begin, and then in a different section it then tells you what the element value is. And what this is basically doing is it's collecting up, I found this out the hard way, of the per image there's not necessarily just one polygon, there's multiple polygons. So that was fun. I kind of had a few kind of misshapen polygons. Probably should have checked for it in the beginning, but basically I collect it up. I start off by collecting up the current, it's basically there's a series of points per polygon, and there's a series of polygons per object. So per single annotation there could be multiple polygons, each with multiple points. So in this, it basically sets kind of a read X, read Y kind of system, and depending on when it sees that a polygon is ending, then it adds that polygon to the set of polygons, or if it's a point, it adds that point onto the current polygon which is being built up, and then when it finishes, it then appends it to these arrays. So basically, out of this, I get a very simple array of arrays of points, which is basically a set of polygons, so a set of shapes, or a set. It's basically a load of points at the end of the day. So basically, I go and pass that, and then basically render that in an image context. And I set the fill color to be black. Oh no, the fill color, that's for the background. So I fill the whole background in. I then, what's happening here? Ooh. Oh, I pick the start point. So I pick a point in space, so that's the start. And then I iterate through all the points in that polygon. So this loop here is the whole polygon. So that's basically each, let me think. Yeah, so that's basically each polygon. Each time a polygon happens, you run once through this loop, so it runs once per polygon. I start with the very first point, because this is an array of points, is an array of a single point. So I start with the very first one, and then move through all the points, adding to the line, drawing those points. And then I set the stroke color, I set the fill color, so I basically say, make this white. I don't want a line width, so I think possibly the stroke doesn't need to be set, whatever. And then I fill that out. And if we have a look down here, this is what's happening. So you see here's, this is cropped. Yeah, that's fine. I then also crop it based on the same parameters I cropped it on, and positioning as well. I have to make sure that the position of the annotation is in the same position as it is when I cropped it towards the face. So I use the same parameters to basically do that. And what I'm then getting is a cropped face in color, in its original size, it's in its high quality size, not being stretched, and I get the cropped mask. And basically this is just looping through, and there's quite a few of them. It's taking a long time. I have a feeling because I'm doing a recording at the same time as all of this, but we'll see. Resized mask. Yeah, oh yeah, no, these are just the crops, so these are just square at full resolution, and then I doubt you'll be able to tell the difference. Oh, it's really lagging out. Yeah, that's the resized version. What is happening here? Oh, that's the face request. Oh, that's, wow. Yeah, everything I think is nested inside the face request possibly. Yeah. So once it's got the rectangle, it then goes and does all this other stuff. So I guess in theory, if that fails, I would want to have a log of that. And what I do is I basically create directories, and I'll find out the URL for this. We can go and inspect what they look like and where they're coming through. Oh, I printed it. Oh, where did I print? Oh, I printed it. It prints at the very end, and there's 302. So I might as well wait for the last few to happen. But basically, what I'm doing, I believe output folder. I'm using the playground shared data directory to then write them there. Wow, it's reading this, I'm just like, oh wow, I only did this in less than a day. Okay. So I could cheat, but I'll just leave it to finish off, I guess. So that is basically processing the dataset, and that will probably be a good place to stop, just because the next part of the process. Oh, hello. Hi. I'm being interrupted. Hello. I'm midway through something.
Well.
Okay, is it dinner time?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm being called for dinner.
Practicing or what?
No, this is live. This is as live as it gets. It's a recording. My dad's just interrupted me. So inside the project folder, the hand model, the component which is kind of then used is then the next step in that is to take the data set which is created from all of this, and it's just finished, and it's told us where it's written to. It's written to here. Because it doesn't deal with spaces very well, I will want to paste that in and go to shared data, images, just clear that. So we go there, what was shared data, or just all of it. We'll just open that and then just open doc to open the Finder. And this is the output which I basically have got. So I've got a set of images, all labelled exactly how they were before, but nice and cropped. And in the masks folder, exactly the same. So we can actually open up two numbers. For example, let's go number 22, as we had before. So number 22 hopefully is good. 22 looks like that. And the mask, number 22, where are we? Yep, looks like that. So you can see there, it's actually picked up the shoulder. It's kind of interesting, but at least you get the idea. This dataset obviously only has about 300 examples, so it's not crazy, but because we're doing transfer learning, that's not a problem we need to worry about. And there's a ton of kind of quite fun hand shapes as you go through. You can see there's you can kind of nearly see where the hands are, and it's really cool because obviously then when you then go back and run, so I'll close that now because that's all sorted. When I then go back to Stop Touching My Face Project and run it, that's how we get. Oh, is this? I think so. I think that's going to work. Maybe. Yeah. And that's how you get that kind of that mask. The actual how we train that is using PyTorch. So let me just quickly reset the camera by opening QuickTime. It's a bit of a hack. There we go. Yeah, so the training of that is all done in PyTorch. I can maybe explain that next time. I think that's a pretty good place to stop. All the training I did online using a website called Paperspace, which allows you to host Jupyter notebooks in the cloud. So that's something to talk about next time. I think that's everything, which is kind of a good start. So to recap, I have a channel. Let me just reload this tab. 3 subscribers, very nice. Thank you very much if you have subscribed. If you're interested in seeing more of these, then please subscribe or leave a comment or anything. When I can be live, I'll be live. Otherwise, if you want to find me anywhere, probably the best place at the moment is my Twitter, which is Matthew_Spear at Twitter, on Twitter. I'm also on GitHub under, weirdly, Matthew Spear, not underscore. And this is all open source and available to try out. It will soon hopefully have README, which could be a task for next time, and hopefully some parameters to fiddle with. I think I'll probably do maybe a recap on this video of explaining how kind of it all comes together. But yeah, thank you for listening.
Nothing to lose them. You got nothing to lose.